I'm so excited to have you all here today. This is a great event, and I'm so excited for you to hear what all four of our panelists are going to be talking about. Just to give you a bit of an idea for why I'm here, I am a Guelphite. I live here in Guelph, and I really do love this community. But the work that I do in my day job is all about organizational sustainability as well as community level sustainability. So the programs we offer at Sustainable Waterloo Region integrate measurement, target setting, and real reporting on actions that reduce the impacts of greenhouse gases, waste, and water with businesses, organizations, and the community at large in Waterloo Region. We actually engage over 15% of the workforce, and we manage over 1 million tons of greenhouse gases. We've recently been able to get a unanimous adoption of an 80% carbon reduction target by 2050 for all of Waterloo Region. And we're bringing together 3 cities, 4 townships, and a regional government to work together on how do we reach that kind of a target. We work in the areas of built environment, meaning green buildings, mobility, so transportation, which is 49% of the carbon footprint of Waterloo Region, and I suspect much the same here, as well as organizational energy reductions, including waste and water. The biggest thing that's happened recently in our work is the opening of the Evolve 1 building, and if you haven't heard of this building, I encourage you to go look it up. Evolve 1 has been certified by the Canadian Green Building Council as Canada's very first net positive multi-tenant office building. That means it generates more energy, more clean energy than it uses. So instead of doing less bad, we're doing transformation where we are creating good from part of our built environment. It's done within the developer's approved budget, so it's scalable, and there's no reason any building should ever be built again that is not built in this way. And I'm happy to tell you that the feasibility study for how do you build this building is online. Go to the Sustainable Waterloo Region website, click on Evolve 1, and there's a link. It'll take you to the FCM website, and everybody is welcome to see that and to scale that kind of work. In that building, we're also working on the behavior piece. How do you get the people to engage in a community culture so that they act the way that we need them to so that sustainability can happen? We need technology and we need culture change, and those two together, I think, are the magic sauce that will lead us to that low carbon future that we're working towards. So that kind of background is the reason I've been asked to come here today and to moderate this panel and to be your MC tonight. Because a lot of the people that are going to be talking tonight are going to be talking about the different orders of government. How do we come together and work towards this kind of a low carbon future that's not only good for the environment, but good for our economy? Build a stronger, more diverse economy. Clean tech is a $3 trillion industry worldwide, and Canada is losing profit share. This is a challenge and a way for us to be more prosperous and more healthy, a healthier economy and a healthier environment. So, I'm really excited to share that Guelph is doing really great things as well. So Guelph has been a leader historically in things like our community energy plan. We were the first in Canada to have one, and now more than half of the communities across Canada have community energy plans. We also have, I understand, the highest number of roofs with solar panels, more in Guelph than anywhere else in Canada. So those are things that you should be very proud of, and the work that's being done there drives us towards that long-term future that we're all working for. The goal of Our Energy Guelph, however, which is the group leading this, is to put community back in that community energy plan. So it can't just be about orders of government. It means all of us are part of this movement, and all of us are part of the solution. So really excited that we're going to be able to give you some opportunities to learn more about ways that you can engage after the speakers and after the panel. We need all hands on deck, and that is why we are bringing campus and community together today, so that you look around and there are students here and there are community members here, and we are together working towards that long-term vision. So thank you all for taking the time to be here. So to help us get a sense of what our possibilities and challenges look like, I'm so honored to be able to introduce Dianne Saxe. I got to hear her speak last week for the second time, and Sustainable Waterloo Region has been honored that she's come and spoken at our events in the past. I find her incredibly inspiring. She is passionate. She will throw down the challenge, which I think is all kinds of awesome. And so I encourage you to really listen for what is actually happening, to listen for what can we do, and to listen for what is the possibility for our future, because there are incredible possibilities in front of us, things that we can do and things that maybe can be facing us if we don't act. There is a bio I was given. I'm not going to read the bio. She's an incredible environmental lawyer, unbelievable, does amazing things. Go find it online. More interesting, she loves anything with a paddle. So if you want to get on her good side, come and talk about your kayak or canoe. And she adores her dog. So welcome to the stage, Dianne Saxe.
So thank you very much for the warm welcome to Guelph and all the wonderful environmental and green leadership that you folks are showing. We were hearing something about it this afternoon, and it's exciting. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about who I am and what I do and why I say that climate change is everything, and then something about opportunities for action. So I have the honor at the moment of being your environmental commissioner. I will be the last environmental commissioner of Ontario. So I'm nonpartisan. I was appointed unanimously by all the members of the provincial parliament to serve them, all of them, and through them, all of you, and with two main functions. One is that I am the guardian of the Environmental Bill of Rights, which is a very special and unusual statute that we have to give Ontarians the right to participate in significant environmental decisions of the provincial government. And the other is to report to the members and through them to you on these three quiet little topics: energy, environment, and climate. So it's my job to be nonpartisan but not neutral on the issues on which the parties that I serve most ferociously disagree. Fundamentally, it's my perhaps naive hope that facts matter in public policy, that public policy should be made on the basis of facts, and it's my job to try to tell those facts as best I can without fear or favor. We do this in a number of different ways. We have a really excellent website, eco.on.ca. How many people here have used our website? Great, good to see so many hands. Everybody else, you can find lots of information there in both official languages. So you can find all our reports there. One of the other tools we have there, I don't know if I can make this work. Anyway, you can see there's a red arrow pointing near the bottom of the slide. So would you, if the government complies with the Environmental Bill of Rights, which sometimes they do, they are required to post notice of any significant environmental proposal or decision on the environmental registry. Would you like to know when that happens? Yes? Yes? Okay. So, best way to do that is to go to our website and put your email address and the keywords you want in there. We will send you a free email notice whenever the government posts an environmentally significant decision or a proposal that has that keyword in it, and that will give you the opportunity to go speak to your MPP about it. Now, I mentioned that I'm required to do 3 annual reports a year, one on each of these topics: energy, environment, and climate. I'm here mostly to talk about the climate report. On that central ring in the middle, we've got summaries of some of the reports. They're also all available on our website. If you can use hard copies of the summaries or the reports, just let our office know. We do this work at public expense. We want you to have them. And we know people are more likely to look at the reports if they've been able to look at something on one page first. So if you don't remember anything else I said tonight, I hope you remember this. I was an environment and energy lawyer for 40 years before I became commissioner, and I thought I had a pretty good sense as to how bad things are. And I've been completely blown away since I became commissioner as how much more serious climate change is, how much faster it's moving than we see from the newspapers, how much it's affecting everything I care about. So, is it as bad as we thought? It's worse, and getting worse really quick. Climate change, it isn't just about polar bears, it isn't just about coral reefs, it isn't just about people far away or later. It's here right now. Much more is ahead, and we are determining that future at the moment. Now, you hear a lot in the newspapers about, well, scientists say something by 2100. Honestly, I haven't met anybody who cares much about 2100. It's too far away. But does anybody here care about a small person? I'm very fond of these two, although they're really noisy. And if they get to live the kind of life expectancies that we do, they will be alive at 2100. So when we're talking about what happens this century, we're talking about what happens in their lifetime. And so when we walk this knife edge, anyone who works on climate, looking at the facts seriously, we walk a knife edge of hope and despair. And there's lots of reason on the facts for despair. But if I only despair, that means I'm not doing anything for them. And so, because I care about them, I have to keep working, and I hope that you will do the same. So we know that we're putting out more climate pollution now than has ever happened in human civilization, and we know that the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, the most common greenhouse gas, is now well over 400, permanently over 400 parts per million. When was the last time that humans lived in a world where the carbon dioxide was that high? Anybody know? Never. Humans have never existed when carbon dioxide was this high or anything near it. And it's going up faster and faster. So we're already starting, so we're trapping an enormous amount of heat. We're already starting to see the highest temperatures in human civilization. We're already starting to blow away temperature records for how many temperature records we blow away. Now you can see on this chart how fast carbon dioxide has risen. The 350 is in red because it's the closest thing to a magic number we have. The best estimate we have is the highest level of carbon dioxide we can have in the atmosphere for long and still have the kind of world that existed when I was young, with coral reefs and mountain glaciers and fairly predictable weather. And we know it's not natural cycles because all the natural cycles, orbital wobbles and solar cycles and ice ages can come and go, and carbon dioxide always stayed between 180 and 280 parts per million. And we blew past that in 1860. And 350, the highest safe level of carbon dioxide in the air, we blew past that in 1988. Now we know it takes about a generation between the time that we put carbon pollution into the air and the time that we start to really experience the effects. And about a generation after 1988, what did we start seeing in terms of coral reefs around the world? And mountain glaciers and predictable weather. There's lots of details about climate change that are complicated, but the big facts are pretty simple, and they're very well understood around the world. Virtually all climate scientists, more than 97% of them, all agree on the basics. Now, when people receive bad news, it's my experience that most folks want to hang on tight until normal comes back. And normal, I should say, if people want the slides, Tova, how do they get them? Do you know? We'll find out. All right. You're welcome to take pictures, but if you want the slides, we're glad to distribute them. But this is a really key slide. I'm from an evidence-based profession. How many people here are from evidence-based professions? Okay. Big thing about evidence-based professions, there's only one place to get evidence. It's what's happened already. And we're now moving into a world of things that haven't happened before. But what we do know when we talk about normal is by and large we mean the average of the 20th century. That's what our laws are designed for, that's what our engineering standards are designed for. And the average of the 20th century, whoops, I keep doing this wrong. Dear. All right, anyway, I can't use the pointer. The average of the 20th century is that zero line. And we don't live there anymore, and we know it can't come back, because remember, we've locked in a lot more climate change from what we've emitted in the last generation, which we're not really feeling yet. So normal is gone, and it cannot come back. Now, that's true for the world. It's even more true for Ontario. Ontario is warming much faster than the world average. World average warming is 1 degree centigrade in about a century and a half. Ontario's warmed a degree and a half in not much over half a century. And we're on track for 2.5 to 4 degrees in the next few decades. And as you can see, it's not the same in all the different parts of Ontario. Well, the color doesn't show very well, but there's parts of Ontario where for the last 4 decades, growing seasons have been increasing 13 days a decade. That's lightning speed if you're a moose or a tree. But there's also parts of Ontario, which you can see in blue, where we haven't seen any increase in growing season at all. Climate change affects different parts of the province differently. I know people hate seeing stats about Toronto. We've got really good stats about Toronto, and I don't have really good stats about Guelph. But Toronto has warmed more than 3 degrees in a century and a half, when the world as a whole has only warmed 1 degree. And the farther we go north in Ontario, the faster the warming's happening. Now, what you won't hear me talking about global warming isn't just about averages, it's about extremes, and we've already got 4 times the climate extremes here just since I was young. And that's in Canada and the US. We're some of the luckiest people in the world. You can see these extremes whenever you see the news. These are all pictures from Ontario in the last year or two. That's what's happening to insured losses. These figures are adjusted. There's no inflation in these figures. There's no wealth effect in these figures. This is true increases in insured losses in Ontario just from extreme weather. Anybody think this might affect the cost of insurance? Anybody think it might affect the availability of insurance? And we also have, it's not just money. We've got health impacts, Lyme disease, West Nile, diseases that were never known in Ontario before, which are now more and more widespread, affecting plants, animals, fish. Those are fish dying because the water is warm, lost the oxygen, they succumb to disease. We know there's impacts of increasing unpredictability for food and farming. Yes, it's great that the growing season is longer, but does that help you if you have droughts and floods? Does it help you if you have more erosion or more wind damage or more pests? We know that precipitation is changing. As you can see, there's parts of Ontario that are now noticeably drier in the summer over the last several decades, and that includes some of the areas around here. And we know also that precipitation in the winter is increasing, especially in some places, and some of that which used to be snow is now coming as rain, such as we're going to get tomorrow. And what else? There's already millions of climate migrants. So is it too late? So people always ask me, is it too late? And I have to say, too late for what? Is it too late for that young person you care about to have the same life that we had? Yes. Is it too late for us here to avoid having to make some real difficult choices? Yes, we threw away that time. Is it too late to make a big difference in what's ahead? We're in that moment right now. We've got a very small handful of years, and that's all there is. We don't have any more time to waste. So what can we do to fight climate change? Well, we know the basics. We have to significantly reduce our climate pollution. We have to do it now, and we have to adapt. We can't do just one or the other. Neither will work alone. We know that this isn't just something that we have to do, this is something we want to do. There are enormous benefits to reducing our dependence on fossil fuels. Ontario's economy is still 80% based on fossil fuels. Anybody know how much we spend importing those fossil fuels every year? How much money do we pour out of the economy every single year? Between, best estimate we've got is between about $16 and $24 billion a year. Every year. If we were 10% more efficient and we kept an extra $2 billion in the Ontario economy, can anybody think of something good we might do with it? What would that do for jobs for young people? It's better for public health. Climate change and fossil fuel combustion is now the largest threat for public health in the world, according to the World Health Organization, the Lancet Commission. It's the biggest threat to children's health. We can have a much better world if we reduce our dependence on fossil fuels. There's lots in our climate report about it. I hope you will go and look at it. But we basically do know what works, and we proved it. Number one, pollution shouldn't be free. When pollution is free, you get a lot more of it. When pollution costs something, financial people have to know how much there is, and they have a financial incentive to reduce it. Carbon pricing really works, which is why the Nobel Prize in Economics was given to the man who proved this just after Ontario tore ours up. Second thing we have to do is invest in solutions. And again, most of the cap and trade money in Ontario, 3/4 of it was going to taxpayer-funded groups like universities and schools and hospitals to make them more efficient so they don't waste so much money every year in their heating. Grand River Hospitals, one of the poster kids, they're saving $850,000 a year, they tell me, because they've been able to make their buildings a little more efficient. And that's money that can go back into patient care. And the third thing is regulating polluters, as we did in Ontario when we closed the coal plants. So we were doing so much right here, closing the coal plants, putting a price on carbon, investing that money back in solutions, a little bit of work on adaptation. And we know that cap and trade was working. It was starting to work really well. It wasn't given much time, but I could see it working all over Ontario. We've got some of the things in our report. And we know that pretty good use was being made of that money. In many cases, it brought 4 times as much money into Ontario in matching private sector investment. But now what? Until June, Ontario was was really prominent as a climate leading jurisdiction in the world. There's trillions of dollars sloshing around the world looking for ways to invest in a green economy, in a low carbon economy. And Ontario was prominent in those rooms until June. But now we've torn it all up. We've canceled our climate programs. We've canceled most of our energy efficiency programs. We've canceled 752 clean energy contracts. We're busy canceling other environmental protections like the Greenbelt Act and the Clean Water Act and the Endangered Species Act and other things which are in danger or being damaged or lost. We do know that only 1% of the people who commented on the Cap and Trade Cancellation Act supported getting rid of cap and trade. But what they are doing is silencing me. So I'm sure that'll make it all better. This isn't something scientists can solve. It's not something lawyers can solve. It's not even something politicians can solve. This is a big job for all of us. And then the province won't lead, well, who can and who will? Well, everybody else can. If the province won't act on climate, does that mean the rest of us should sit home and do nothing? Will we have a livable world if we do that? There's no one who's going to rescue us if we don't do this ourselves. So how many people would like to have some hope? I only know one recipe for hope. It's to start with knowledge. Look the facts in the face, even though they're not very pretty. But the second thing is to look at each other and find a way to work together. Nobody can do everything, but everybody can do something, and I think that's the only way we can have any kind of hope. So what can we do at every level, individuals, organizations, cities? We have to reduce our carbon footprint, ideally 5% every year. We need to get ready to adapt to the wilder, weirder weather that's coming. And the most important thing of all is that we have to speak up. I know it feels un-Canadian, but we must speak up, and we mustn't get tired of speaking up. We have to talk about climate all the time. It's the most important thing. It's going to change everything else. So how do you do it? Well, there's really good research on this now. Simple, clear messages repeated often by a variety of trusted voices. And they can't just be lawyers from Toronto. But each of you is a trusted voice to someone, to some people, and you know people who can be trusted voices. Everyone who can speak up has to. And you can get started now. So I know that there's going to be a wonderful trade fair tonight, but here's 3 things to question, 3 things you can think about. Who are doing good things that you can support? With time, with money, with encouragement. Who can you work with? We need to collaborate on climate change. This can't be a question of just everyone who's interested in climate issues and environmental issues being fissured into our little groups and not working together. If we do that, we'll be totally ineffective. We have to find ways to work with people that we don't 100% agree with, but with whom we share this central desire for the survival of the world, for the well-being of our children. And be a trusted voice. Find ways to build bridges. Find other people you can work with. Find other people you can trust. Go meet with your politicians at every level. Politicians really care what they hear from their constituents, right? right? Letters are good. Going to see them is better. Go to see them with other people who aren't just like you. Go and talk. See how well you can help. Be part of the solution. I'm doing everything I can. Will you? Thank you.
Awesome. I don't know if that didn't inspire you and get you a little riled up. We need to talk later. But of course now I'm like, I need to go see Mike and Lloyd later, or maybe I'll just corner them at the table. So the next speaker tonight is going to be Lloyd Longfield. He is our local MP, Member of Parliament, federal representative for Guelph. Again, I have a bio, but I'm going to skip that. He was elected in 2015, and before that was the chair of the Chamber of Commerce, president of the Chamber of Commerce for the City of Guelph. But fun facts about him, actually I love these ones. He did not have a creative educational career. He did not have any role to play with getting a VW parked on the 3rd floor of his engineering building. He didn't have any role to play in a variety of other pranks, and I do hear he did have a creative engineering career though. So you want to find his bio, I'm sure it's online, but please help join me in welcoming Lloyd.
I should be able to figure out if this is working. It is. That's great. Good crowd, and thanks, Dianne. I can see that what we're going to have tonight is a building conversation, and that's the way it should be. I think in order to get things done, you have to find the common ground. You have to find the initiatives, as Dianne said, that you can get behind and support, and then figure out a way to move things forward. And there is a sense of urgency. I mean, when I saw those pictures, I thought of my grandkids as well. But I also thought of where we've come in a very short period of time. 1988, I'd been married for 10 years already. You start thinking of milestones in your life, and really things are happening quickly. I was up in the Arctic this summer. I went up to our Climate Change Research Center up on Ellesmere Island and talked to the scientists that have been up there for 30 years and what they've seen in the last 10 years or so. And the permafrost melting and the pockets that was leaving, the glaciers retreating and the silt that was getting into the sea and what that did to marine life, animals and on the sea or in the sea, or animals on land that they used to see more of that they don't see as many of anymore. And what that does, it was farther north than Indigenous people, but what that does to Indigenous people and the conversation that we're having with what we're doing to their land, whether it's the Inuit, the Métis, or First Nations, or unaffiliated Indigenous people that have the right to the land that we're destroying. I've worked on boiled water advisories. I work on projects. That's what I love, I would look for. And Jane Philpott asked if anybody could help with boiled water. And I've done a lot of work in First Nations, putting generators in back in the early 80s. And so I know what it's like to fly into a place and the bush plane takes off, and then you're with the community working together to solve problems. And now, what can we do to get clean water to everybody that deserves clean water, which is everybody? And we've made some progress. In some short period of time, we've made some significant progress because we're focusing our time and resources. But more importantly, we're listening to them. We're listening to the elders about where do you put wastewater, what do you need to do to protect their source water, and how do we work together to provide those solutions. So those conversations, and some of them I'm having with people I've known now for, 40 years. And they're still around. And they remember me flying into the bush camp 40 years ago. So they have memories, and they have a lot of bad memories. And they have bad memories from INAC. They've had bad memories of a lot of the things that they've had to go through. And now we're trying to change that. So, and that's not easy. I mean, I mean, obviously we need to protest, we need to do the things to raise awareness, but at the end of the day we need to have conversations that are productive, that we can work together to solve some problems. So I've looked at the project of climate change in Canada, and I've gone to the Parliament of the Library of Parliament, and I've said by province I want GHG emissions. I'd like to see it by sector, and they've given me those reports. We've got a report now that's really close to what we worked on in Guelph when we were developing the first community energy plan, and it looks at how much GHG emission by types of activity. So from buildings, how much come from buildings, from transportation, from agriculture, food and waste, how much GHG comes from industry. And then drilling into that, where can we find projects to reduce by industry and really work on industry-specific solutions. And so I've looked through my notes, and I won't read them all. You don't need the numbers right now, but if you have questions, I've got them. I've got some answers that we've invested in the Arrell Food Institute and looking at providing sustainable food for the world out of the University of Guelph. And we've invested in the car of the future. I also co-chair the Automotive Caucus, and so working with the automotive manufacturers as well as Linamar and others that are developing the car of the future to go from 80% internal combustion motor design to 20% in the next 5 years. So they're going to be ahead of government, which is great. And we need to provide the tools for them to do that. So solving these problems, it's going to be complex, but I think really to get to the point of productive conversations, which I'm hoping we'll have tonight, these are really productive for me to hear what people have to say, to hear Dianne and Mike and Cam and I work together. We had a great meeting last week looking at some of the issues that we're jointly facing. Then we go back to our prospective areas that we try and work with City Council in Cam's case, or Mike is trying to get the attention of a government that doesn't want attention on this problem, and so he's got a challenge that we have to help him with. And so working together, university, business, government, and researchers to make a better world.
Thanks, Lloyd. Thanks, Lloyd. Okay, next I'm going to welcome up Mike Schreiner. Mike is the leader of the Green Party and was elected MPP for Guelph, the first sitting Green Party member in Ontario. I think we all need to applaud that. I have to say I was, as a Guelphite, incredibly proud that 45% of the vote went to Mike. That's amazing. And as I had conversations around the community during the election, it wasn't just the Greenies or the young people who were getting behind the message that Mike was bringing. It really was everybody, my friends, parents, and grandparents, and it was incredible, the movement that was happening here. Some fun facts. I love these. He actually loves the snow. So if you're hating this cold weather, you need to come and have a conversation with him. He wants to go skiing more often, can't do that as much. And apparently, despite his diminutive stature, he loves to play basketball. So if you're looking for someone to join a pickup game, he's your guy.
Yeah, those of you who know Tim Mao, I'll take him on any day. he's like about a foot taller than me. So thank you to the University of Guelph, City of Guelph, all of you for organizing this event, putting this on, and all coming out tonight. When you talk about what communities are doing to take climate action, Guelph really is at the forefront of any Canadian community, but especially here in Ontario. And I can tell you, I did an interview just literally today with the National Observer asking me, what makes Guelph so special? What makes this community so special? Why is this community leading in the clean economy and on climate action? And it's really, I tell everyone, it's because of the people. And it's the people in this room. So thank you so much for the great work that you do. And I can tell you that all three levels of government here work so well together on a variety of issues, in particular on this issue. And I'm going to say, how many communities do you have an event like this and the mayor and the MPP are bragging with each other they got the last 2 EV charging parking spots out in the parking lot? That's Guelph. There wasn't one for Dianne. I also just want to say quickly, Dianne, thank you for the amazing work you've done as Ontario's Environmental Commissioner. We're just honored to have you here, and you know, what a tragedy in Ontario that in a few months we will no longer have an environment commissioner. And the reports, the knowledge, the information that your office provides for parliamentarians and for the people of Ontario is essential and will be sorely, sorely missed. It's a bit tough right now being a climate advocate in the Ontario legislature. You know, yesterday the Premier predicted that the federal carbon price was going to lead to a recession. And so you can imagine how much media I've been doing today just talking about the fact that the world's top performing economies all have a price on carbon pollution. The 4 top economic provinces in Canada have a price on carbon pollution. Well, Ontario no longer does. You look at Sweden, the country that brought in the first price on carbon pollution. They've hit their GHG targets and have had one of the top performing economies in all of Europe. You look at British Columbia, the first province in Canada to bring in carbon pricing, and it has the top performing economy in Canada. California has carbon pricing, and it's met its GHG reduction targets 4 years ahead of schedule, and has one of the top 5 best economies in the United States, one of the top performing economies in the world. So it is just patently untrue that carbon pricing kills jobs and is bad for the economy. You could actually make the case that carbon pricing is good for the economy. And Mark Carney, the governor of the Bank of England, will tell you that. It's a $5 to $7 trillion a year economic opportunity. And I want Guelph to lead that in Canada. We're already leading in so many ways, but I would argue that it's essential to our economy. It's essential to our economic health to create a livable future for our children by embracing the clean economy. That's where the jobs are. That's where our future is. And so don't let any politician try to scare you into thinking that we have to choose between jobs or a livable future. Because the jobs of the future, which are available today, are the jobs that lead to a livable future. And the facts show that. And so now we have to have the political will to deliver on it. So I just want to talk about 3 things really quickly, how they relate to the province and to Guelph. So first of all, the foundation for any climate plan that has any credibility whatsoever is to put a price on pollution. And it's simple, basic economics 101. You put a price on something that you don't want and people will do less of it. It's just basic economics. And so I don't want to be too partisan here, but you know, the Conservative Party used to believe in economics, used to believe in markets, and I believe there are still a lot of conservatives in this province, I know for sure in this community because I've talked to them all the time, who still believe in markets and understand that market mechanisms can help us solve this crisis. The second one is we have to reduce transportation emissions. It's the largest source of GHG pollution in Ontario, and we have a job to do here in Guelph. We have to invest more in transit. We have to invest more in active transportation, making it easier to walk and bike to work. We need the province to get on board with all-day two-way go. You know, not only to help us reduce our pollution, but to actually generate the economic wealth by connecting the communities that exist along this corridor. So we're going to have to get our transportation system in line. Electrifying personal vehicles, so it's not all just transit and cycling and walking. It's also electrifying our own personal transportation. So, one of the car dealers here in Guelph is the largest seller of electric vehicles on a per capita basis of any dealership in Ontario. So we get it here, but we have to have the infrastructure in place, and we have to have the supports to transition there. The second one is buildings. The second biggest source of carbon pollution is buildings, and we have a huge opportunity. And I know there are going to be a number of the groups in the back when you go to the trade fair that are going to talk to you about ways that you can help make your home more efficient. And there still are provincial programs like the Save on Energy program where you can get money back to help you invest in making your home or your apartment or your business more energy efficient. It'll help you save money by saving energy and reduce your carbon footprint at the same time. And I just want to say, thank you. We have like 5 or 6 green builders in Guelph that are developing right now net zero energy efficient buildings at competitive prices. So you're absolutely right. We should not build another, there's no reason to build another building in Ontario that's not carbon neutral. And then the final one is industry. Somebody said 10, is it 10 now? 5, that's what I thought, 5. Yeah, I know, I see one, yeah, okay, 5. We can do it. There's one, we can do it right here in Guelph. We are doing it. And we need to make sure we have policies in place to support that. And then the third one is our industry. And we're already seeing that here in Guelph. And we're leading the clean tech charge. We have the largest solar manufacturer in the country. We have the largest geothermal distributor in the country. Our community energy plan is helping to lay the foundation for the kinds of innovation and community engagement across our community, businesses, individuals, public institutions, all working together to drive that economic change that we need. But that's where the jobs are. And so if you think about it, we ship about, I think it's 500 million out of Guelph every year in energy costs. Imagine if we kept that money in our community to create jobs, to create investment, to provide more revenue to our city government, to invest in the things that make Guelph such a great community. And then as Dianne said, imagine the 15 or 16 to $24 billion that leaves the province of Ontario. Imagine if that money stayed in this province, creating jobs, contributing to GDP, and helping to reduce pollution. Imagine if we did that. And so, you know what, as far as I'm concerned, when the Premier, stands up for the oil and gas sector, those jobs are somewhere else. The last time I looked, we don't have a lot of big oil and big gas in Ontario, but we have huge capacity for clean energy. And so we have to change the conversation. And I think it's incumbent on all of us to be a part of changing that conversation in our individual lives, to speak up, to take action, and to reach out. In particular, right now, reach out to conservative MPPs and encourage them to come along, because there's a strong economic argument for us to take the action that we need to take.
I want to say something. You said
okay?
really good points. Sorry, I don't want to interject, but I just want to bring attention to the fact that food is really important.
Yes.
Agriculture is actually a really high contributor of greenhouse gases. I just want to be aware of what you're consuming and how that
Yes. We have a question period after this. So
Thank you.
absolutely.
And I assumed food was going to come up in the mayor's presentation, because the Guelph Smart City Challenge project, I don't want to steal his thunder. But anyway, I'm on a roll here, folks. But I mean, a report just came out the other day. Half of the food grown in Canada is wasted. And Cam's going to talk about some ways we can fix that.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. So now it is my pleasure to introduce Cam Guthrie. Cam was an entrepreneur, an insurance broker here in the community, was elected to City Council first in 2010 and then elected mayor in 2014 and has been re-elected mayor and has become a major champion for climate action and climate change. So really excited to be able to say that as well. And of course, I love all of the personal stuff. So if you didn't know, I actually knew this already. I didn't know the name of the band, though. Cam was a drummer in a band, and you can go and find on YouTube his band. It's called Fitness Club Fiasco. Sometimes I feel like my classes at the gym should be using his music, but most of the time they go fine. Go look. You can even buy it on iTunes, yes?
Yes, I won't go any further until everyone opens their phone and buys my album.
And second, I actually see Cam far more, hear Cam far more likely at high school football games. Our sons play on the same team, and Cam likes to announce the games. Yep. So, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to conversing with the panel here and with all of you and getting to the trade show. So I'll try to make this as quick as I possibly can for everybody. And I just want to thank yourself and Dianne and everyone for being here. And it needs to be said again, the three of us politically at all three levels, it's a true blessing actually for me personally, but for our city, I really feel it's a blessing how well we get along on all these issues, and it's good to have that coordination between the three of us around the topic that we're talking about today. It's already been, I believe, mentioned that the City of Guelph actually was one of the first cities in Canada that did the Community Energy Plan back in 2007. And so what happened is in the last term of council, because it was coming up on the 10th anniversary, council and staff and many in the community felt like we needed an update. And so I was really pleased that council was able to endorse a 10-year update of the Community Energy Plan. And that's now called the Our Energy Guelph. And I want to give a shout out to them for everything that they've done in putting this event together. So let's give a round of applause for them if you wouldn't mind. And so a couple things that came out of that, there's a lot of things that came out of that update, but two things that are highlights for me that I think everyone in the community should know about is the first one is that we made a commitment, a unanimous commitment of council, might I add, that we want to be a net zero community by 2050. But a little bit further on that, sort of the icing on the cake, is from a corporation point of view, the Corporation of Guelph wants to be striving to be a 100% renewable corporation by 2050 as well. And so we're getting more information from our staff on that as we move forward on these types of initiatives. So really great kind of visionary stuff for us to be wrapping ourselves around. I just want to highlight bullet points for you about some things that are happening in the City of Guelph, some things that have happened a little bit in the past, and some things that are coming up right now, just so you know, like we're on this journey together and we are taking action on these things. So the first few are, obviously you've heard about our solar panels. We have way more than anybody in the province, and we have, that's not only on the corporate side, but residential, private side. It's a huge amount of uptake on solar panels in our community. We have a cogeneration plants in our city at the wastewater treatment plant and at the West End Community Center as well. And then we also had a gas plant that the gas plant at the closed Eastview landfill site. So when that landfill site closed, we're turning the waste methane into electricity now at the local level. So we also, in the last term of council, we did a merger with Guelph Hydro and Electra Utilities for our hydro component. And I am thrilled that because of that merger opportunity, several millions of dollars are now going to be invested in what's called the GREAT Center, and that's the Green Energy and Technology Center. And that's going to be actually opening up very soon, and that will be done at the Southgate Hydro place that they're currently at. So stay tuned for more information about that. But to have that technology and innovation center come out of that merger for our community to showcase innovative ideas for not only us, but to share across the province or to anybody else is going to be just a perfect fit for Guelph. So I'm really excited about that. The other thing too is we started started our own climate change office within the City of Guelph. So it's like an actual department, and other departments are filtering through that department now to help us with climate change action. We made a motion at council to EV our fleet. We created an active transportation policy, and there's a lot of support, I could say that word, amongst all of us on council and myself to really put more effort into active transportation networks, so biking, hiking, walking, and transit all together across our city. We also moved to change all of our LED lights across, sorry, not change them, go to LED lights, street lights across the City of Guelph as well. You know, it was just mentioned that I was an insurance broker before I became the mayor. I was an insurance broker for 16 years. And so it was interesting. I didn't know that that slide was going to come up in the presentation showing about flooding. And, you know, that was one of the big triggers for me personally to kind of start to really, you know, understand the impacts of climate change was not from, you know, not from an environmental point of view at that beginning. For me, it was really around data, just straight up data and facts coming from the insurance industry, where when I started in insurance, fire and theft was the biggest risk issues in the insurance industry. By the time I got out of insurance and became the mayor, it was completely different. It was all about flooding. All about terrible stormwater management and flooding that was occurring because of severe weather across everywhere, but across Ontario. And so one of the things the City of Guelph did, which not a lot of cities actually I think have had the courage to do, is we created our own stormwater fee to make sure that our stormwater system in the City of Guelph is minimizing the risk and becoming sustainable so that we can have that across the community for people's protection of our lands, of people's businesses, people's homes, and I'm very proud of city staff, and I'm very proud of city council moving forward and actually creating a sustainable fund for our stormwater management in the City of Guelph. The last thing I just want to quickly talk about, and it was a good segue from you to me, which is the food. And we do have a booth here about the Smart Cities Challenge. The federal government, and stop me if I'm wrong here, Lloyd, with what I'm saying, but the federal government put out a challenge for innovation and technology around a social problem. And so cities, there was over 120 cities across Canada that actually bid on presenting solutions to social problems. And the City of Guelph partnered with the County of Wellington and many organizations and stakeholders in the community, including the University of Guelph. And we came up with our problem, which is food and food waste. And I am so excited because out of those 120 or so applications, we made the top 20, I think, is it? And then out of the top 20, we're sort of in the top 10 of a certain category. And we will be finding out when we win, I'm going to say it that way, for $10 million to go towards this problem. And that will be announced. When is that happening, Lloyd? When are you bringing us the check?
The end of our term.
Okay, yeah. So it'll be announced this year, and Guelph is really excited about that. And so I just want to give you a couple little stats here. What does food have to do with climate change? That's maybe what you're asking and what you brought up at the back there. If food waste were a country, it would be the third largest greenhouse gas emitter in the world. Because when food waste ends up in landfills, it releases methane. And as we know, methane is a greenhouse gas that contributes to climate change. This is on top of the waste of resources like the land, the water, the fertilizer that happens when we throw out half of the food that is produced in Canada. And there was a big article that came out about that, thanks to you for bringing it to my attention last week, about half of the food we're throwing out. So you can consider the climate change impacts in regards to that. So, food waste is not just an economic or social problem, it is an environmental problem, and I'm so happy that it's the City of Guelph that's taken up, that torch to try to battle that issue, and we're doing a really good job. So with that, I want to say that myself, on behalf of the City of Guelph and the county and everybody else that is involved in that, we're very proud of what we're doing in that area, and I'm really happy to be here tonight to talk with you. And so thank you very much for allowing me to bring you up to speed about what the City of Guelph is doing.
First, I would like to say, please join me in thanking our incredible panelists today. So we're now going to move into the sort of trade show part of the evening. There may be some snacks in the back still. I think I can see cookies and cider back there. And I want to say kudos to the organizers that there are no plastic water bottles or disposable cups at the back of this event. Fantastic. So this is your opportunity now to go see how you can get engaged. So are you interested, are you a student and interested in mentoring other students? So then go see My World, My Choice. Are you a homeowner? Go and see Project Neutral to find out what your carbon footprint is, or go see Emerge to find out how you can reduce your impact. If you want to join a growing movement around energy initiatives, go see Our Energy Guelph. If you're a business owner and want to get some tips on how do you reduce your impact on the environment, I'm your gal. Generally, go engage, talk to each other. Let's talk about how do we take all of this great energy and move forward. Thanks so much, everybody. Guelph is an embarrassment of riches. Let's make the change happen here.
Very good, Tobin.